Hi, my name's Claire Haviland and I'm the English Subject Advisor at Pearson EdXL. This is a brief support session for teachers thinking about offering entry-level certificate in English to help you understand whether it's the right qualification for you and your students, and also to understand how to deliver and assess it. So here's just a brief overview of what we'll be talking about. So which learners is it suitable for? What levels are there? How does it sit in comparison to other English qualifications, etc., etc. So let's start off with who is ELC English suitable for. So it's mainly for students who are likely to achieve below grade 4 at GCSE. We're thinking they're in a school setting. An entry-level certificate does tend to be mainly offered in schools. Colleges for post-16 learners tend to offer entry-level functional skills, and we'll come on to more about what the differences are. There's entry level 1, 2, and 3. When you're talking to us about it, it's important to distinguish, am I talking about entry level certificate 1, 2, and 3, or am I talking about entry level functional skills 1, 2, and 3? In terms of sort of level, entry level 3, a pass at entry level on entry level certificate at entry level 3 is just below a grade 1 GCSE to help you see where it fits into the bigger picture. And neither entry-level certificate or functional skills count in school performance measures. So you'll be offering them in order to support students, to give them a sense of achievement, as stepping stone qualifications, but they won't count in school performance measures as GCSEs do. I just want to talk a little bit about the different contexts in which entry-level certificate is offered, and this kind of emerges from the many meetings I have with teachers in different settings through the year. So just to give you a flavour of when you might offer it. So it's often offered in mainstream secondary schools when you have maybe a nurture group or some students who you're pretty sure are not going to get a grade 4 at GCSE, and as is obvious from what we've said, because entry level certificate is below grade 1, it's typically for students who are not borderline at sort of 3, 4. It tends to be for students who are working at a lower level. Having said that, some schools, or increasingly also special schools or alternative provision of different kinds, do talk to me about using entry-level certificate as one sort of structuring element, maybe for younger students, so in year 9, or if you're not using typical school years at a younger age, and that's possible. It is intended as a qualification that runs for Key Stage 4, but you could offer it in the equivalent of year 9, for example. So you've got mainstream schools, you've got special schools who might use entry-level certificate, or PRUs, for example, and it can be delivered as a 2-year course. So the guided learning hours are 60 to 120. So some schools or other settings will offer it over the full 2 years. They might offer it over 1 year in year 10, and then in year 11 move on to level 1, level 2 functional skills, and we'll see why in a bit. And sometimes in special schools where students stay for a long time and take longer to achieve qualifications, it might be just part of a general pattern. We'll do entry-level certificate first, and then we'll do functional skills, and then we'll do GCSE. Those are all things that are possible, and which schools and colleges are doing. So let's just take a bit of a closer look at how entry-level certificate fits in with other qualifications. So I've given you the link to a summary document, which I would advise reading, because it summarizes really the key information mainly for entry-level certificate and functional skills at entry level and level 1 and level 2. So I've just copied this table out of it. I've just updated the information. So this just gives you a sense of the main differences. So one of the main differences is that entry level certificate is what classified as an academic qualification. So the entry pattern is the same as for GCSE. You make an entry by the 21st of February each year, and you need to submit your students' work by the 15th of May, like you do for A-level coursework if you do A-level, or international GCSE coursework if you're doing international GCSEs. So you enter in February, you submit all of the work by the 15th of May, and then your students get their entry level certificate results on GCSE results day. So it's a very simple qualification to administer. It's just one entry, do the work in school, compile the folder, fill out the front sheet. Next year we'll be scanning the work to our learner work transfer portal, enter the grade, entry 1, 2 or 3 achieved, and then that's it. You get your results on GCSE results day. The differences for entry level functional skills is that that's a vocational qualification, and it has a more complicated standards verification process. So whereas with entry-level certificate, we deal with the verification or quality assurance through moderation, like we do in coursework, for entry-level functional skills, we have a standards verification model. So you need to have a certain quality assurance process set up in your school or college. You have to identify a standards verifier. You will have a standards verification visit from Pearson and Excel every year. And so it's a slightly more complex process. The assessments are gold padlocked. They can only be downloaded by the examinations officer, and they have to be treated securely. If you're in a school context, one of the reasons to choose entry-level certificate rather than entry-level functional skills is sort of the simplicity of the model. And we'll come on to a few others on the next slides, but I just wanted to summarize that. You can move on to functional skills level 1 and level 2 from entry-level certificate. So it doesn't really make any difference whether you do one or the other before. You've just got the prices here, the amount of admin and the contexts. So at your leisure, you can have a read across. And I've summarized some of the main points on these next two slides. So generally, schools choose entry-level certificate for younger students, whereas functional skills tends to be for older students, often who are post 16. Entry-level certificate is good for a stable cohort, so for schools where the students stay with you for the whole academic year, because as I said, it's on a once a year model, whereas entry-level functional skills is on demand. So you can assess students and get them certificated at any time during the year. So if 3 students are ready they've done their 3 assessments and you want to get them their entry level 3 functional skills certificate by Christmas, let's say, you can do that with entry level functional skills, but you can't do it with entry level certificate because it's the different model. You choose ELC if you're looking for an assessment and content style which is similar to GCSE. So you're in school, everyone's doing GCSE anyway, also the lower ability students, but you also want to offer them something else as a stepping stone or something that they can get a qualification in at the end of year 10. Then entry-level certificate matches the same kind of content. And I've just put an example reading question from entry-level 1 on the screen, and you'll see that that's a fiction. It's a bit small. It's a fiction context, whereas you'll see in entry-level functional skills, it'll be more work-life-based contexts. And yeah, as I mentioned before, if you're looking for a simpler entry and admin style that is similar to GCSE, something that you're familiar with because you've only got 1 or 2 students out of a much larger cohort, then it's likely that ELC will be the qualification for you. Reasons to choose entry-level functional skills. So as I said, older students who've got some work or life experience or are looking to get an English qualification in relation to the world of work. if you need a flexible entry pattern, so you want to certificate students at different times through the year and at different, so not all of the students might get assessed at the same time. And there you've got an example from entry level 1 functional skills reading. You see it's a job advert, so there's the kind of obvious link to the world of work. Okay, so assuming the rest of the presentation is only about entry-level certificate, so how is it assessed? So you can see a summary on the slide with the different timings and marks awarded at each level. So there's a slight difference between entry level 1 and 2 and entry level 3 in terms of comparison. So because this is aligned to GCSE, there has to be assessment of comparison. So at entry level 1 and 2, that happens in the speaking and listening, and for entry level 3, that happens in the reading. So there's just a slight difference there. At each level, students pass if they get 70 out of 100 across the three components. Where do you get the assessment materials and how do you record the assessment outcomes when you've assessed students? So for the speaking and listening, you go to the specification and there you've got a choice of, I think it's 10 or more different tasks. And as you'll see, they're differentiated by level. You can use the exact task as given in the specification, or you can adapt it, keeping the essential core of it the same if you need to for your particular students. So you do the assessment and then you, for speaking and listening, you complete the speaking and listening section on the assessment record sheet. So you put some descriptions of the tasks and how the student performed and you award marks. And video recording is not required, and that is a difference to entry-level functional skills where a video sample is required. So that could be a factor for you if you're in a special school or you've got students who are very nervous about being video recorded. You can avoid that for entry-level certificate. For writing, it's similar. So you go to the specification, and again, you've got a large number of choices of tasks at each entry level. And again, you set the task and then you mark the work, complete the section on the assessment record sheet, and that will be being submitted and sent to us by the 15th of May. And the reading is slightly different. So for reading, we set the task, the specific task. So it's a paper that is downloaded from the exam materials section of the entry-level certificate webpage. And you've got a choice of 3 topics for fiction and for non-fiction at each level. These tasks stay the same for the lifetime of the specification. So you're not looking for, oh, is this the current task? Is this one expired because it says 2023? They're all valid until the specification changes at some point. And then again, after you've marked the reading, you complete the assessment record sheet. And then, so when you've done all of that assessing, you've got one assessment record sheet, the writing and the reading, and that will all be scanned and uploaded by the 15th of May and then moderated by us. So let's look now at resources, what's available. So you need to bear in mind how many papers are available. So as I said, there's 3 at each level of live assessments, and then you have the sample assessment materials. So in terms of you trying to assess students with an initial assessment to decide which entry level should I pitch at, 1, 2, or 3, it's a good idea to use the sample assessment materials and maybe one of the live assessment materials, but hold back because you've got a limited number. The marked exemplars are very useful. I've put a couple of images on screen. These show how to complete the assessment record sheet and how to annotate students' work to show how you've awarded marks, and they give you an idea of what your students are aiming for at each level. Okay, and then what else is there? There are course planners. So there's a 2-year model and a 2-year model mapped to GCSE English language. There's a Getting Ready to Teach pack. And you could also make use of entry-level functional skills resources. There are more teaching resources on the functional skills pages. So you could feel free to dip into those, even though the endpoint will be the certificate. You could make use of the GCSE style Key Stage 3 assessment materials that we have, and also the Let's Think in English materials, which are all on our GCSE pages, but I've put the links for you there. There are also various published teaching resources. None of these are bespoke for entry-level certificate. So Skills for Writing, that's it's pitched for Key Stage 3, but there's an awful lot in there that you would be happy if Key Stage 4 students could do. So that's a good resource. It's a pack of 3 books that you buy relatively inexpensively. We have the Inspire range. Again, this is a Key Stage 4 teaching range designed for British international schools, in fact, but it's a kind of a traditional English teaching textbook, which you may find useful if you want to have some ready-made resources. And I've just put links also to a couple of grammar and spelling books. You'll see there that the image style is quite young, so you'll have to decide for yourself, do those fit with our students or not? And so in a live session, we'll have any questions if there are any, but otherwise, feel free to get in contact with me at any of these links. So you can book appointments with me. So I do quite often have appointments with teachers in different schools and colleges to talk about how to design a curriculum or an assessment structure for students who are likely to achieve below grade level 4, grade 4 at GCSE. So if you want to sort of discuss the specifics, feel free to book an appointment with me. Thanks for listening, and look forward to speaking to you another time. Thank you.